For this segment, I want to tell the stories of 3 Addison veterans who were prisoners of war during World War II. William Lewis Stunkel, the only child of William W. Stunkel and Louis Croggy Stunkel, was born on March 15, 1922 in Addison. Stunkel attended Lutheran schools and graduated high school in 1940. He was drafted into the Army on November 17, 1942. Much of what we know about his military experience is drawn from an oral history interview he conducted in 2004. In April 1943, Stunkel left the U.S. for Casablanca and was assigned to the 34th Division 168th Battalion, Company F. There he conducted coastal patrols. He saw his first action as part of an infantry reconnaissance group after his company landed in Salerno, Italy on September 9, 1943. His unit was spearheading a drive north of Naples when they were cut off from their flanks by the Germans and were captured. Like many of his fellow POWs, Stunkel had been wounded. He was loaded onto a train, but the train was strafed by Allied air forces. He and several others managed to escape for several days before being recaptured and sent by train deep into Germany. He was first taken to the Moosburg camp at Stalag 7A northeast of Munich. There he was put in solitary confinement for 21 days because the Germans knew he could speak German. I was in a private cell and every day they would try to interrogate me. Then they finally decided I was no threat. Later he was transferred to Stalag 2B north of Berlin near a little town called Hammerstein. While there, he volunteered to work on a potato and rutabaga farm. Life at the farm, according to Stunkel, was not too bad. We had to pick potatoes and rutabagas, but they let us keep a few of the little potatoes. In January 1945, Stunkel and his fellow prisoners were told that they needed to march away from the Russian front. This would later become known as the Black March. The POWs were forced to march 25 to 30 kilometers a day with few rations. Stunkel was finally liberated in May 1945 in the town of Schwerin by an American armored division. At the time, he weighed only 99 pounds. He was sent home on June 3, 1945. He went on to marry Verna Rosenwinkel at St. Paul's Evangelical Lutheran Church in December of 1945. He passed away February 7, 2009 in Spooner, Wisconsin. Lester Yeg Roderman was born July 28, 1918 to Edwin and Minnie Moeller Roderman in Addison. He attended St. Paul's Lutheran School in Addison and finished 1 year of high school, according to his enlistment papers. According to the 1940 U.S. Census, he was working as a doorman, and his service registration card indicates he was working for Louis Bosworth, who owned and operated Louis' Restaurant. His enlistment in the U.S. Army was February 28, 1941. According to the St. Paul's mailing list, he was with Troop A, 27th Cavalry Reconnaissance Squadron as of May 1943. According to the World War II POW data file, Roderman was a technician grade 5 in the Army. His mechanized reconnaissance unit was dispatched to Belgium in the European theater. According to family, he was captured when doing reconnaissance on a motorcycle in Belgium. He was interned at Stalag 13D near Nuremberg, Germany. Upon his release from captivity, Lester reportedly weighed 98 pounds. After the war, Lester married Emmy Schmale. He was a 30-year resident of Elmhurst at the time of his death in July of 1988 and is buried in St. Paul's Evangelical Lutheran Cemetery in Addison. Henry Hahn was born to Henry and Frida Hahn in 1917. He attended St. Paul's Evangelical School, where he was a classmate of Lester Roderman. According to his enlistment records, Hahn had completed 1 year of high school and was listed under the occupation gardener, groundskeeper, parks. On the St. Paul's Church mailing list, Hahn is listed as a corporal with Battery A, 50th Field Artillery Battalion. According to his son, Henry was stationed in Iceland before being moved to England and subsequently France. Hahn went into action 31 days after the D-Day invasion. He was a sergeant in charge of a howitzer unit with Patton's 3rd Army. He started to lose his hearing, so he was reassigned to a forward position. His unit was captured when a German tank cornered them in a building near Metz. They were marched over 100 miles to a camp and then put on a train headed east. According to POW records, he was being transferred from the transit camp Stalag 12A in Limburg, Germany, to Stalag 9B in Bad Orb, Germany. But the train was strafed by Allied air power, and he was able to escape with other prisoners. On the way back, they were spotted by Germans who let them go. Hahn rejoined the American forces and went on to be honorably discharged from the Army. During the war, he and his 3 brothers served in the armed forces. After the war, he married Evelyn Evans and resided in Lombard. He died June 8, 1973, and is buried at Glen Oaks Cemetery in Westchester, Illinois.